Your local election headquarters, KRQE News 13 presents the 2025 Albuquerque Mayoral Race Special.
Welcome to this KRQE News 13 election program, the 2025 Albuquerque Mayoral Race Special. I'm Jessica Gaudete.
And I'm Dean Staley. 6 candidates are running to be Albuquerque's chief executive. Over the next hour, we will introduce you to 3 of those candidates with experience in city and state politics, policing, and firefighting. We interviewed all of the candidates on the same day using the same questions on a range of topics.
Those questions covered a wide range, including one of voters' biggest concerns, how to fight crime here in the metro and improve the operation of Albuquerque's police department.
We also asked about homelessness and how to get thousands of unhoused people off of Albuquerque streets.
And how the candidates would spur economic development in our city of more than 500,000 people.
Some of the interviews were lightly edited for time, and the order in which you are seeing them was chosen at random.
Our next candidate is the current 2-term mayor of Albuquerque. Tim Keller is a St. Pius and Notre Dame grad with a business degree from Harvard. Keller is a former state senator and state auditor, and he's running for a 3rd time as mayor. Mayor, welcome. You're running for an unprecedented 3rd term. Let's just start with what's on their mind right now is crime. We're seeing crime starting to go a little bit lower, but Albuquerque still remains higher than the national average. Your opponents have been very vocal about just hammering you about not doing enough. Have you done enough to battle our crime problem?
You know, we have been focused on really rebuilding a department. So I think if we think about when we came in, you know, we had the consent decree, we had officers leaving, and crime was going up for 10 years in a row. That's what we've been dealing with. And then we have national trends on top of it, in which case, until recently, that was the same thing nationally. So what we've done is we've actually tried to fight crime a different way. So we have invested in technology and in civilianization. And so now we have over 20% of the city, essentially a crime-fighting technology shield of cameras and gunshot detection. And so this actually has brought crime down in every category for the first time in 10 years. Now I mention that, I know we have a long way to go. That's not lost on me at all, but we know it's working. What we've got to do is get that platform over the rest of the city. And that's how we see crime go down for a sustained long-term period. And now we have a department that's capable of doing it. So I'll give you one other example. You know, for 10 years, the last 10 years, if you shot someone in this town, there's a 50% chance APD would ever even catch you. Now there's a 95% chance you will be caught and you will be put in jail. And it's because APD is effective again with that technology and also with the civilian support to essentially free up officers to fight more crime. So we feel like we know what we're doing, and we've rebuilt a department, and we've just got to keep going, and then those numbers are going to keep going down.
You've been criticized for keeping Chief Medina, even recently after the DWI scandal broke. Would he still be your chief in this next term?
I'll be looking for a new chief next year. And you know what he has done is rebuilt that department. He did kick everyone out who was part of the DWI scandal that had been happening for 30 years. So he's done a lot of house cleaning, but I know it's time for a new chief, and that's what we'll look for if I get another term.
You've been very vocal also in supporting city-sanctioned homeless camps, and lately you've been trying to ease restrictions because we haven't, you know, it's been so strict on the rules that we haven't been able to see very many pop up. It's met with a lot of resistance from people who have to live next to these camps. How do you make sure that the people living next to these businesses or next to these camps, businesses, homes, that they're protected?
Well, when we think about the challenges on our streets, in some ways it's similar in that our city never created a system to deal with the homeless. Like when I came into office, there wasn't a single city employee whose job it was to work on homelessness or housing. And what we realize is that the problem nationally, but also in Albuquerque, is so big, you have to have multiple solutions for different types of folks. So you got to have addiction treatment. Yes, you have to have shelter space. Absolutely, you have to have more housing and housing vouchers. But one piece is there is a huge section of folks who refuse services. And they also at least claim that they are not doing illegal drugs, because if they're doing illegal drugs, they should be arrested. And that is what we do, actually hundreds of times a week. But the problem is so big, we have to have multiple answers. And one answer is a place where people can camp, essentially. So I want to just keep them small, 10 tents or less, And we will make sure that there is law enforcement there, making sure that it's safe and that there's no drugs. And that's the answer, is to keep them small. So we need multiple safe outdoor spaces that are small. So it's the opposite of what everyone was talking about like 3 or 4 years ago, where you have these massive encampments. That is a terrible idea, and I ended that policy 3 years ago. But having small ones, it's much safer and lower impact wherever they are.
What do you tell businesses and homeowners who are constantly complaining about the homeless, blocking their buildings, they can't get into work, that they're causing problems? Just yesterday we had the sheriff saying his number one problem and issue that he has to deal with is violent homeless people, and being called to these businesses, being called to, because they're violating homeowners' rights as well. So what do you say to those people?
Well, one is that we need to make sure as best we can to hold them accountable. So believe it or not, APD actually deals with those issues, and so does our community safety team. The issue is we have 5,000 at least people on our streets, and we're able to address hundreds every week. But what's missing in there, right, is a huge gap. And this is why things like the Gateway are so important. We're on the cusp of actually taking care of 1,000 people off the streets every day. When I came into office, we took care of 0. They were all on the streets. And if we finish the vision of the Gateway, we can take another 1,000 off our streets and off your front yard and out of your business and into care and on a path towards housing. That's what it's about. That's why I need more time, because we know it's working, because we have those 1,000 people that are now off the street. We've just got to keep going. And I think part of the challenge in the past has been we look for a quick answer, a quick solution, a pilot project. This is way harder than that. If it was as easy as something like that, I would have done it a long time ago. The idea is we have to build a system to deal with this issue, unfortunately in Albuquerque, from scratch, because we never had that. And that's what we're well on the path toward doing, and it's why I'm hoping for some more time to finish that job.
You've had a lot of businesses, we're going to switch now to economy. You've had a lot of businesses shutter during your administration during the past 8 years. If you look at Nob Hill, Walmart's, Walgreens, all pulling out of Albuquerque. How do you plan to spur economic growth?
Well, we're seeing actually small and local businesses, even Nob Hill has had more openings than shutterings. I think what you're speaking to is big boxes closing. And actually our goal is to convert those facilities to either housing or to places for small businesses. And part of that, though, is understanding 2 things: how cities are connected with the neighborhoods in the city. And so we want to have economic anchors in intersections. So for example, like 7th and Central used to be a decimated block like you described. Now it has a boutique hotel, it has a brewery, it has cafes, and it is vibrant, and it's what we all want to see. We want to have dozens of those all over the city. We even see them in like Tin Can Alley or the Bridges. The issue is when we built out as a city, right, they didn't build community hubs, and so that has been holding us back. And that's the way to push back against the void of like a big box retailer leaving. The second thing is wages are up $9 since I came in, and we know that we have to continue to also create literally more jobs. And that's where big ideas like quantum computing or about us being manufacturing for solar panels, these are things, even Netflix, when I brought in Netflix, those are things that create thousands of new jobs. They're going to lift up all the neighborhoods. So we've got to do each one of those things.
Your administration says the city faces losing more than $2 million in federal cuts to grants and programs. Would you raise taxes to make up that loss?
Well, right now, we don't think we're going to lose those. I've pledged to defend our city, no matter who the president is or no matter what politics we have. And so far, we have a great track record. And I think whether you agree or disagree with certain things around, protecting immigrant families or other issues like that, we also fight in court. And so far, we've been winning and we've been protecting those dollars. And so this is one thing about having a seasoned executive team that really knows what they're doing. We've seen Trump try and do this before to us. And so we're ready as much as we can be. And knock on wood, so far our key pieces of funding have been protected. And I think actually the administration has acknowledged that we have our act together and he's not just going to push us around.
Where do you stand? We know where you stand on being an immigrant-friendly city. Why do you not allow, some of your opponents have really criticized you for not allowing ICE into the prisoner transport center and sending back people who are breaking laws. How come?
Well, it's important to note that our immigrant-friendly policy notes that we will arrest anyone who is doing something illegal, period. It doesn't matter if you're an immigrant or what your documentation is. So we will do that and we will send you to jail. So that's important for folks to remember, because I know whether it's my opponents or others, they try and confuse that issue, and it's not confusing. Every law enforcement officer and everyone knows if you're doing something illegal, we will arrest you and we will take you to jail. Now, we need everyone to feel safe calling the police. That is really important, especially in the immigrant community. There may be issues of domestic violence in the home, and we need that person to be able to call the police without fear of deportation of, for example, a child or maybe a grandparent who's in the home. And so it's important for public safety that APD is trusted. And in this environment, you cannot trust APD if they're coordinating with ICE. And so the last thing is our officers, they want to enforce our laws and they want to do the job that they signed up for. They do not want to work for ICE. They don't want to work for the federal government. And so they also actually support this policy.
Our latest instance where we saw a man who was tased in Walmart here in Albuquerque. He had been arrested for drunk driving and released. Like, if you're not going to, even at that level, I mean, we've established we already have a crime problem, we have a DWI problem. Why not make sure that they get sent back? Like, our systems are stressed, MDC is stressed. Like, why wouldn't you want to send them back? Just to, in general, we already have those issues. If you're not going to follow the laws, why not have them deported?
Well, I think I have to make sure that my job is to essentially run the city, and that includes the police department. And in that situation, our police should arrest anyone with an outstanding warrant, and they should take them to jail. What happens after that is up to the county, which runs the jail, or it's up to the federal government in terms of what they do. And so it's a good debate, but it's also, you got to know my job is to be mayor. It's not to be in charge of ICE. It's not to be in charge of the jail. And so I know our police officers are doing the right thing by arresting folks. What happens to them after that is a different issue.
Finally, what do you love about Albuquerque, or your favorite memory here?
Well, I mean, there are a lot. I was born and raised here. And so I think what I love about this city most in general is we have a community, I think, that is like no other community in America. And that is because of our deep cultural traditions. In some ways, it's because of our natural beauty. But I think we are literally one of the most unique places you can live. And that identity that is core to who we are is also tied to a deep resilience, that we're our own self. And what I mean by that is, for example, even on the immigration issue, I will tell you, people hold me accountable every day, whether it's the grocery store or picking up my kids from school. And that relationship as mayor to the city is really powerful because I get direct feedback. But people also say they want a mayor who stands up for the city during tough times. And they tell me that even if they say they're not voting for me, but they respect that that's at least what I'm doing. And I think that's really special. I think a lot of mayors don't have that, actually. And so in the end of the day, like, we're all going to live here together, and my kids are going to school here, and people kind of know that. And that's something that, again, like most, I think, elected officials don't feel in other cities. So I think this notion that we're all in it together and we're here for our city at the end of the day is very powerful. Now, favorite memory, I mean, there's lots. Working at the beach water park, that was awesome. Of course, even just going to high school here. But I think more recently now, it's my kids starting school. That's always a special time of year. And they're at an age where, in middle school and elementary school, where they're exploring our city through fresh eyes. And I get to see what they love about Albuquerque. And that is awesome, just as a parent and a dad. And so I love every minute of that.
I completely agree. Mayor, thank you so much. I always appreciate your time.
Our next candidate is a retired Albuquerque firefighter and former California fire chief. Eddie Varela shares his detailed plan for solving homelessness and crime in the Duke City when we come back.
You're watching the 2025 Albuquerque Mayoral Race Special.
Our next candidate is Eddie Varela, a retired Albuquerque firefighter and former California fire chief. Varela is a Rio Grande High School grad. He also served as the school board president of the Catron County Schools. Mr. Varela, first of all, let me start with crime. In this city, so many people don't feel safe. They feel like they can't go to the gas station or the grocery store. They're concerned about their safety in public places. What specific steps would you take to lower crime in this city?
Well, let me preface by saying they are not safe. Okay, they don't feel safe, but they really aren't safe. Even people who live in gated communities, they got to come out and go get gas and groceries. So in my journey through the city, I talked to thousands of people, and the crime issue and the homeless are the top two issues by far. So I had to develop a platform and plans for crime, because most politicians say, I'm going to reduce crime. That doesn't get it, as far as I'm concerned. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to immediately reorganize the whole police department from top to bottom. We have a very good police department. It's been rocked with some controversy with the DWA, but that'll pass. And we have really good police department. And when I hear things in the street about, I called a cop and they didn't get there for an hour, that is not the police department's problem or the police officer's issue. It's that we only have 288 peace officers on the street for 2 shifts. And so we don't have enough police officers. So I ask people, please don't criticize the police department, because they're doing the best they can. And it's not really their fault, it's a lack of leadership by the current mayor. So we're going to reorganize it. We're also going to start something called Police ROTC in the high schools, juniors and seniors, boys and girls. Will be given a course in police work and law enforcement. It'll be taught by peace officers, retired. And when they graduate from this course, they will be immediately picked up by the Police Safety Aid Division of Albuquerque, and they'll be guaranteed a job. And I'm kind of rushing to it, but in a couple of years, once they're 21, we're going to absorb them into the police department. And they will have had 3 years of law enforcement. They will be young at 21, but they will have training, okay? We're also going to set, the most important thing that we'll do on our first day is a curfew. I will set a curfew as soon as I can get in the office and take care of some paperwork, and young people under the 18 will not be on the streets past 11 o'clock. And obviously the reasons are, we have young people, 15, 14, 12, killing people. You recall that, and you see it as a newsman, you understand what's said. We will end the killing as quickly as we can by setting a curfew. It'll be an emergency curfew. All right, and then the next issue is we're going to go to Santa Fe and stop this qualified immunity limitation that the police have. What that means is they can be held personally liable if they make a mistake. You're going to make a mistake if you're a police officer. It's inevitable. They make split decisions. We're going to help them out in Santa Fe so that they have 100% qualified immunity. And then the next part is the one that we're most proud of. We have developed a program, we're going to call it Police Day Work, where retired peace officers will be able to call into our program and work a shift of their choice. And they'll call in and they'll ask if they will not have to go to the downtown office, they'll go to a substation, and we're going to pay them well. And I don't know what that number is yet, but they will not be city employees, they'll be private contractors. And the reason I'm doing this is because in my investigation of crime in our city, I have talked to hundreds and hundreds of peace officers, and I ask them, what's the solution for crime? And they tell me visibility is the solution. So these people, that police officers, women that are working, they will be visible, and they will be patrolling the city of Albuquerque, and they'll be out there, and that will it will stop crime. Now here's the thing, it's not going to be just APD retired. It's going to be APD retired, state police retired, sheriff department retired, federal agencies, FBI, CIA, the warden's office, anybody who was peace officer. Because the reason that I'm going to do it this way is because we have thousands of retired peace officers in our city. And why is that? Because we have a 20-year retirement. They're out there. And they like my program. They say, yeah, I would do it. And that's kind of a thumbnail sketch of what we're going to do in the police department.
Okay, Mr. Varela, just in the interest of time, I'd like to move on. It sounds like you have a ton of ideas in terms of public safety. Tell me about homelessness.
Okay. When I started my journey 2 years ago, one of the main issues, of course, was homeless from the business people, broken windows. And I thought, if I'm going to solve this problem, I have to have solutions. Okay? So, to make a long story short, once a week I go down to 1st Street and I-40 overpass, and I talk to the homeless. I actually visit with them. How do I do that? I buy a couple of packs of cigarettes, and I give them cigarettes, and they just swarm around me, and they tell me everything I need to know about homeless.
How do we solve this problem?
Okay, here's what we're going to do. I have compassion for about 15% of them. They're born that way. The rest are fentanyl based. But the homeless is different levels of homeless. And I've thought about it, and I talked to these people and think, what I'm going to do, and this is the solution coming here, we're going to hire private security companies to walk with the homeless, not from a vehicle gawking at, look at all those homeless. They're going to be walking on foot with the homeless. It'll be pairs of two, and they will have body cams, and they're going to have weapons. But they're not out there to bust up the home. They're out there to get information. What information do I need? Who are these people? Because they won't tell you. When I talk to them, I get their first name, but I can tell you 50% of them are not from Albuquerque. And when I talk to them, I learn a lot. We're going to cite them. Once we decide who is recoverable, we'll help those people. I'm a Christian man, these are people. But there's people out there who don't want help. We're going to cite them for the infractions that occur every day, and I don't have to tell you what they are. You see them yourself. And they'll be given citations. Those citations will go to the judge. They won't show up for the court hearing, and the judge will issue warrants for their arrest for non-appearance. And we're going to go back to those people, which we will know by then who they really are, and we're going to give them the opportunity. You want to go to jail, or do you want to go to your hometown? And I can guarantee you, they're going to say, I want to go to my hometown. We're going to buy the tickets and pay for the tickets and send the homeless out of here in large groups.
Mr. Varela, let me challenge that. Do you think you think you're going to be able to arrest and lock up your way out of homelessness?
No, not at all. I'm going to give them the option. Okay, if they have a warrant for arrest, they can go to jail. But that's not what my plan. My plan is to remove them from the city of Albuquerque and send them back to their homes of origin. Why would I do that? Because when I talk to them, I ask them that question. Would you like to go home? And they 100% say, I'd love to go home.
Let me ask you specifically, do you support sanctioned homeless camps?
No, I don't, because that's just a Band-Aid solution. And I do not support spending $200 million a year on homeless. It's not working. Money is not the answer to this problem.
What do you say specifically to the business owners who are troubled by homeless people outside making messes outside of their businesses, and also customers trying to get to those businesses who are scared off from even going to these businesses? What do you say to those business owners and those customers?
What I say to them is what I just recited to you. They gave me these ideas because businesses are being impacted by the homeless at an amazing rate. They're affecting our economy. You're right. And the number one issue that I hear from business is broken windows. I had no idea that windows could cost $3,000 or $4,000. They do. And so business owners want this damage stopped, and they want the homeless out of our town. And that's as frank as I can be.
All right. Mr. Varela, tell me what, and I'm only moving on because we're so limited in time here. So the economy, what will you do to create jobs and economic growth in the city as the mayor?
We are experiencing zero growth in our city in the last 3 years, okay? When I did my studies on economic development and economic growth, I went to Rio Rancho because I happen to live close to Rio Rancho. You cross the street, there's no homeless. If you're in Rio Rancho and you're speeding, you're gonna get a ticket because there's plenty of police officers. Highest academic scores in the state, some of the best athletes in the state, and I did a lot of case studies, and why is that? One street away from Albuquerque, leadership. We do not have leadership in the mayor's office. And I will change that. I will work with the economic development people, the builders, the contractors, and make our city better and get back on track, because we're losing ground fast, and yet Rio Rancho is growing in leaps and bounds. So we have a model city to follow, but we need leadership, and I can provide that for our city.
I want to touch on the sanctuary city issue. We're a so-called sanctuary city right now in the sense that the city has vowed not to cooperate with ICE in terms of immigration enforcement. Your position on this sanctuary city notion?
When the mayor did what he did and said he will not, he has devastated, once again, our economy. We will lose approximately $80 million in grant funding, okay? The nonprofits of our city, and there's 5,000 of them, could lose their grants from the federal government. It's an economic disaster not to support ICE. I will not stand in the way of the federal government, and I'll do this for the people because we can't afford any more deficits in our budget. We're in a bad way.
Just to be clear, does that mean you would invite ICE to be part of, say, the prisoner intake system?
I would never invite ICE. But if they show up, I will not get in their way.
Okay, so if they show up and say, we'd like to look at everyone who's in your jail and pick out people who we think should not be here?
Well, if they're criminals, I can't stop it, and I won't stop it. We need to get the criminals off our streets. And no, I will not impede ICE from doing their work.
Okay. We're going to lighten the question a little bit now, Mr. Varela. You and I both natives here in
Yes.
Albuquerque, born and raised. Either one thing that you love about the city of Albuquerque or maybe a memory that is precious to you about being here in the city?
I love Albuquerque, and I'll tell you why. When I went into the fire department, and I did 30 years, it gave me everything that a young man needed. It gave me pride. It gave me promotion. It gave me the ability to help and save lives. It gave me a retirement. That's the thing I remember the most, is entering into the fire department. Not too far from this building was the fire academy. Sure. And that's one of the finest memories that I have of our city, is helping a young guy from Barelas become a successful person.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time.
Thank you, Dean.
We thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for coming in.
Our next candidate is a New Mexico native, former Albuquerque police officer, and current city councilor. Louie Sanchez tells us why he's the right choice to lead the city of Albuquerque when we come back.
Your local election headquarters, KRQE News 13 presents the 2025 Albquerque Mayoral Race Special.
Our next candidate is Louie Sanchez, a New Mexico native, former Albuquerque police officer, and current city councilor. Sanchez is a West Mesa grad who has lived his whole life on Albuquerque's west side and now runs his own insurance business. One of the things that's on the top of everyone's mind in the city is crime. What specific steps would you take to lower crime in Albuquerque?
Well, that's really easy. It's going back to basics. Albuquerque Police Department has not enforced laws at the lowest level. Criminal trespass, shoplifting, trafficking narcotics, using narcotics or being possession of narcotics. And what about shoplifting? We haven't even touched that in many, many years. And I think that if we go back to the basics and we enforce the laws at the lower level, which would include like obstructing movement and jaywalking, then we start moving the dial and moving the system. And hopefully somewhere along the line, some of the folks, since now they're separated from their threat of gangs and cartels, and they're separated from their drug, maybe at that point we can get some help to them in the form of directed activities and maybe even get them a job.
What would you change at APD? I know it's no secret that you're not a fan of the current police chief. Would you find a new chief?
This chief has to definitely go. The word's out throughout all of the law enforcement community that we have a police chief that does not do his job properly and has double standards. Every police officer out there that's looking for a job, or any potential police officer, is going to do their job and vet out the Albuquerque Police Department and the mayor's office to see if this is a place where I want to spend the rest of my life and have a career here. And at this point, when you have a police chief who almost kills somebody in an auto accident, all you need to do is just watch that video, and then you look at it and you're like, something's wrong with this picture. And he's still police chief, then you're not going to get very many people that are going to come back to Albuquerque to work.
What are your feelings on city-sanctioned homeless camps?
City-sanctioned homeless camps passed through city council, and they called them safe outdoor spaces. What Trudy Jones and I did is we actually went back to the basics there to make sure that there was accountability. We have to have rules to keep people safe. And right now, what the mayor wants to do is he wants to diminish the rules that keep people safe. We can't have that. We need to make sure that if these people are being served, they need to be served in a good way. And then we also need to make sure that they are served in a safe way. And there needs to be safety involved. And all the rules that the mayor wants to relax are all rules requiring safety.
How do you push back on that? How do you make sure that those people that are living next to these camps feel safe?
Well, the people that are living next to the camps are still living on the outskirts, but the people that are living in a controlled environment more or less can actually feel comfortable and feel safe, and that's the reason for the rules.
He's been trying to ease them and make it easier with doing, because he's saying it's too hard the way we have it. And without these camps, and as difficult as it is, we have maybe 2 in the city right now, because it's so hard to set them up. What do we do with these people?
Well, we need to, like I said before, we need to make sure that they are getting the service they need. One of the things that we run into right now when you say what do we do with these people is we're running into the service providers that are trendy. The last thing I want to hear as a city councilor or mayor candidate is people telling me that that provider is trendy and he's not doing his job. So we need to vet out those service providers, because right now we have service providers that are taking full advantage of dollars coming in and not giving the service that they deserve to the people that are out there. So that's another big issue that we need to deal with.
Every day, I'm sure you hear it, I hear it, just people, business owners, citizens complaining about the homeless, obstructing their business, breaking in. Yesterday, the sheriff, said that his biggest issue is being called with violent homeless people breaking into places or causing problems. How would you change that?
I've had that happen as well, so I know what it feels like for a business owner on one of these major thoroughfares. And I'm telling you, we have Central Avenue that goes east and west all the way down Central Avenue. We have issues. We have boarded up buildings. We have boarded up businesses. And we're on the verge of a centennial celebration for Route 66. We have the longest stretch of Route 66 in Albuquerque, and it is right now a cesspool if you drive down Route 66. You see drug dealing everywhere. You see all those broken windows, and you see people sleeping on the streets, urinating and defecating. What kind of city are we running here? We need to change that. And the way you change that is you get out there and you enforce the laws, because most of these individuals are using drugs and they're addicted. So we have to enforce the laws at the lower level in order to get these folks into the system. And then we have to document and keep track of who we're helping and at what rate we're helping them. We're not abandoning them. We're helping them get clear of their cartel, clear of their drug dealer, and hopefully clear of their drug. So if that means they have to go to jail for a little while, then they might have to go to jail for a little while. But the bottom line is we need to help everyone that's out there. And what we're seeing on the streets of Albuquerque right now is inhumane, when people are living and sleeping on their own defecation and urine. And we can't have that anymore.
Turning to the economy, what's your plan for jobs and economic growth in the city?
Well, one of the big things that we're facing right now is that we have the base in town, Kirtland Air Force Base, Sandia National Labs. Currently, pretty much they're the only game in town. What we've come to see in Albuquerque, and I've seen it as a city councilor, is that our economic growth is 0.01%. That means we're not growing at all as a city in terms of economic growth. What we need to do is we need to start moving forward, and we need to help small businesses grow, because small businesses are the backbone of our economy. And without having small businesses thriving, they're the ones that employ the most people. Then we need to go out and we need to incentivize. So what I would do is I would use our bond rating as the city, and then grab that bond rating and start helping these small businesses and small business startups so that they can have a business to start growing. And then after 10 years, if we help them buy a building or help them get into their business, then at that point they can pay us back during that time. Or if they didn't make it, then they can try again. Or maybe they weren't cut out for it. But the bottom line is we need to incentivize small businesses so that they can grow and employ people. Then we need to move into another section is we need to encourage large businesses like aviation, aerospace. New Mexico is the hub for space, so we need to bring space people here so that we can develop jobs, and these are high-paying jobs, and have these people involved in our economy so we can grow it.
The Keller administration warns us that the city faces losing more than $200 million in federal cuts under the Trump administration. These are in grants. They go to everything towards helping, recruit police officers, to child care, after-school child care for children. Would you raise taxes to make up this money?
It's obvious we can't afford to lose that money. So we need to do everything we can to make sure that we cooperate with anybody that's in federal government that has those controls to make sure that Albuquerque is getting its fair share and that we're doing the right thing with it. Like you said earlier, is putting people to work and making sure Albuquerque is safe.
Would you cut other programs to have to make up that loss?
Well, at this point, we don't know that that loss is even going to happen. It's a projection, so hopefully it doesn't.
Where do you stand on Albuquerque being a sanctuary city?
I am not a sanctuary city person. What sanctuary city means is that you hide people who have broken the law. And that's not what Albuquerque does. Also, we have what's called a supremacy clause under the U.S. Constitution that states that the highest law in the land is the federal law. We have our state, our city, state, and local laws, and we also have taken an oath to abide by those. So I think it's very, very important that we do what we need to do to make sure that Albuquerque thrives. And like I said before, I am not a proponent of sanctuary city at all.
What do you say on the other side where people are saying we have families here, it's separating families, they've been here for 2 decades, have tried to get citizenship and haven't been able to, they contribute to the workforce, and that those people should be protected living here?
I think that we can put programs together to help them get their citizenship. And that's what we need to be doing, is we need to be lining up the folks that need the help and get the help to them.
Would you put ICE in MDC in the transport? I guess it wouldn't be MDC because that's county, but would you put ICE in the transport center where people are arrested and taken?
If that would save people from being involved in a officer confrontation, yes. If that's what ICE asks us to do, then we would cooperate.
The current administration argues the reason they don't do that is because they say, including the chief, that it makes our city more unsafe and more dangerous because these people, when you have people here illegally, they're afraid when there's a crime to go to police. And so you have women who may be involved in a domestic violence that don't want to report it, or maybe have been raped and don't want to report it because they're worried they'll get deported. Do you think that by not being a sanctuary city, it would make our city more dangerous?
Being a longtime police officer, the person who does the intimidation is the person that they're involved in the domestic violence with. Those are the individuals that they fear. Those are the individuals that bring them the most fear. I don't think that if somebody wants to inform on their person, let's say it's a domestic violence system. Let's see, I lost my train of thought. When domestic violence has something to do with it, the big issue is the person who is the offender of the domestic violence intimidating that victim. That victim, if that victim needs help, that victim is going to go to where their safe space is and ask their family, their friends, or others to help out. I don't feel that any time while I was a police officer did I ever cross the line where I was going to not help that victim. Instead of helping that victim, send them to a different situation. So I think that that's something we shouldn't have to worry about. And under my administration, people are going to be able to come to the police and understand that we will help them if they're in a situation where they are victims of crime.
Last question. Your favorite memory in Albuquerque, or what you love about this city?
Let me think for a second. I think one of my favorite memories was going to Tingley Beach as a young kid and there was this big spout where the water used to come out, and we used to crawl on top of that spout, and we could feel the water reach around and feel the water coming out, and we could play around in that area. We could get wet with the water coming out. It was just an amazing time when we were kids, and I just remember having so much fun and just wanting to go there to just enjoy that fun place. I think that was one of the most fun things that I did as a youth here in Albquerque.
I love it.
And one last thing is just to let you know, I've got the experience. I envision myself in that chair, and I know what to do. I have the confidence, I have the willpower, and I have the knowledge to get it done. And I will make Albquerque a better, safer place for everyone.
Louie, thank you.
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Jessica.
When we come back, we'll have everything you need to know about the Albquerque mayoral election, including early voting and other voting resources.
You're watching the 2025 Albquerque Mayoral Race Special.
Thanks for spending time with us as we profile each of the candidates in the 2025 Albquerque mayor's race.
Remember, 6 candidates are still in the running, and while you just heard from half of them, the other 3 candidates are answering questions in another hour of our Albquerque mayoral race special. A 7th candidate, Daniel Chavez, will have his name appear on the ballot. However, in late September, Chavez dropped out of the race. Remember, early voting starts October 7th, with Election Day on November 4th.
If none of the candidates gets 50% of the vote, the top 2 vote getters will face off in a runoff election in December.
You can find both of our hour-long mayoral race interview specials anytime on krqe.com or on our new Kirky Now app.
Thanks for watching this KRQE News 13 election special.
And remember, we are your local election headquarters.